in front of you, kindly fill in that space so we have a good live feed. Thank you. Let's quickly fill in the spaces in front of us. Thank you. So good morning once again, and welcome to the Digital Rights and Inclusion Forum 2022. Today is day 2. We started off yesterday. Today is the second and last day of this insightful forum, spearheaded by the Paradigm Initiative in partnership with the Internet Society Ghana chapter and the Inclusive Tech Group. It's the first in-country session happening live at the Holiday Inn Hotel, Ghana. So we are here because of, we want a digitally inclusive and rights respecting Ghana, particularly looking at the rights and inclusion in the era of digitalization. So we will start off with the first opening remark by Mr. Vincent, Dr. Vincent A. Mensa, sorry. So with a round of applause, let's welcome Dr. Vincent to give us the first opening remark.
Good morning, everyone. So my surname has been divided into pieces, and I don't know how that works. So my name is Vincent Ajali Mensa. So the A is not a Mensa. Yeah, it's a compound name. I think we should count ourselves privileged to be part of this conversation, because when I look at the main theme towards a digitally inclusive and rights respecting Africa, and I love the way you said rights respecting Ghana. This is something that should be of interest to every African, every Ghanaian, for a number of reasons. Reason number one, we know that Africa is suffering in terms of the digital divide. We are not fitting into the expansion and the digital age at all. The Asians have gone, the Europeans have gone, and Africa is lagging behind. Now, in terms of inclusivity also, we know that inequalities abound in Africa, and in the digital age, that is even becoming more pronounced. And we need to see how we have a conversation about ensuring that there is inclusion. The connectivity gap, we know the dangers we have in a country like Ghana. We should spare us to discuss that. Now, Ghana has also been assessed as a country that is partially free when it comes to digital freedoms. So that itself speaks volumes. It means that digital freedoms in Ghana is limited. We are not so free in the digital space. So we need to connect that to the question of human rights. Freedoms are very important in the human rights space. So if the digital space is not so free, then there is a conversation we need to have. And that is why I think that this initiative, this team, this discussion, this conversation is an important one that we all need to engage in, particularly that we see Ghana government since the year 2000, especially from 2004, trying to move us into the digital space. And now it seems to be one of the major thematic areas that the government is focused in. We will need to have this conversation. And I invite every one of us to take interest in the conversation. I hope that the media will give it very good attention so we can have this conversation, not only in this room, but in the coming days, weeks, months. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Vincent Ajali Mensa. We'll take our second opening remark from Mrs. Maud Ashon Elliott. Please, with a round of applause, let's welcome Mrs. Maud.
Thank you very much. I'm Maud Ashon Elliott, Vice President of ISO Ghana. This morning, we are really grateful to be here and to partner with Paradigm Initiative on the topic of digital rights and inclusion, especially for those of us here in Ghana. I would like to just come up with, remind us some few quotes that we have in the digital rights space, that a free and open internet is vital for the freedom of expression. Something we should know this from Oscar Okelisi. The internet is not a luxury, it is a necessity. This was quoted by President Barack Obama in 2015. It is no longer a luxury. This is serious. It is really a social justice issue. It's a 21st century civil rights issue by Chapter 2. That tells us that it's really important for us to have this discussion on digital rights and inclusion, especially that has to deal with Ghana. In view of this, it's very encouraging that for us, we are adding the marginalized to this discussion. I've always said that when it comes to making sure that everybody is at par, either we take the issue that is bringing the inequality or inequity from the space, or we dwell with equity. Make sure we support those who need the support to see on the field, and also make sure that at least at the end of the day, you can all watch that football match. We want to thank you for coming in, and we pray that at the end of the day, we also get to understand, we're going to have a discussion on data protection and its implementation, what is going on in our space, especially in Ghana. Thank you all for coming. And remember that the internet is for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Maud Ashon Elliott. So starting off, unlike yesterday where we had two sessions, two insightful sessions, as first session was on enforcing policies and regulations to support digital rights of the marginalized, and the second session was on advancing digital education and advocacy for the vulnerable. Today we'll be having three sessions, three immersive sessions. So we would start off with our first session, which is on enforcing policies. Our first session on Ghana's data protection law and its implementation. It will be moderated by Mrs. Maud Ashon Elliott. So Mrs. Maud Ashon Elliott is a lecturer in IT studies at the University of Professional Studies. She is actively involved in STEM initiatives across Ghana to encourage young women at the high school level to pursue STEM courses at tertiary institutions. Mrs. Ashon Elliott continues to support and counsel these women throughout their education. In addition, Mrs. Ashon Elliott advocates for a safe internet by serving as the Vice President of the Internet Society Ghana chapter, where she teaches women how to monitor and protect their children's online activity. She has also taught programming in Scratch and Python to young children to encourage more participation in STEM programs. She currently represents AIS Women's Network as the treasurer. She is also a partner of MSoft Ghana Limited, a software company that won an award at the just ended Technovate Awards at the Startup IT Company of the Year. She is currently pursuing a doctorate in Information Systems at the University of Ghana Business School. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mrs. Maud Ashon Elliott, who will be moderating our first session. So for our panelists, our first panelist is a security education expert, a development researcher and consultant. He is a senior lecturer at the University of Education, Winneba. He has experience in security, human rights, organizational governance, leadership, and strategy development. He's a visiting lecturer in a number of high-profile institutions of higher learning, including the National Police Academy, where he taught security and human rights. He holds a PhD from the University of Sussex, UK. He provided consultancy services for the Ghana Police Service, GIZ, MasterCard Foundation, amongst others. He is also a human rights activist, including serving as the International Board Chair of Amnesty International. He attended many international meetings, workshops, and academic conferences in more than 30 countries around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, with a clap of hands, let's welcome Dr. Vincent Ajali Mensa. Our second panelist, he is a privacy consultant and practitioner at Information Governance Solutions. He is a certified information privacy manager by the International Association of Privacy Professionals, a certified data protection supervisor by the Data Protection Commission Ghana, a certified ethical hacker, and a trained computer hacking forensic investigator. He is also a fellow of the Ghana School of Internet Governance. He has worked and trained users at all levels in diverse IT fields, including data, information, and cybersecurity awareness training in many countries. He is a member of the Institute of ICT Professionals, Internet Society Ghana, Privacy Professionals Network, Toastmasters Ghana, and National Society for Black Engineers. He has worked as a consultant for MEDA and MCC USA. He is the founder and CEO of GIT Plus Limited, an IT-based company located at the Accra Digital Center. Ladies and gentlemen, let us clap to welcome Mr. Emmanuel K. Gadasu, our second panelist. Our third panelist is Professor Kester Kist Apechi. Sorry. Sorry if I didn't mention your name right. He is a global cybersecurity and artificial intelligence expert, consultant, scientist, engineer, and technologist. He has received several national and international awards, including the Global Award winner of the NSBE's Consulting Design Olympiad and the President's Outstanding Youth Prize for Excellency in Technology, Laureate of the Millennium Excellence. He is a member of DEFCON, the world's largest hacker group. He has worked, participated, and chaired security activities in countries such as the USA, Israel, France, amongst others. He is part of the United Nations expert on artificial intelligence, currently working on AI diagnostics in medicine and AI in emerging technologies. He's an academic scholar, an author of publications and books, a reviewer of high standard scientific international journals, and a consultant to international scientific organizations. He is the founder of Center for Information Technology and Advanced Computing. He is currently a dean and professor at Ghana Communications Technology University. Please let's welcome Professor Kester Kist, our third panelist. Our last panelist, he is the acting director ICT for the Cape Coast Technical University. He was a past lecturer at the Garden City University College, where he lectured for 13 years. Please, ladies and gentlemen, with a clap of hands, let's welcome Mr. Paul Safo. So our panelists will be leading the discussion on Ghana's data protection law and its implementation. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. This is a great panel, and I must confess, I prayed that at the end of the day, this, whatever will come out of here, will not just stay in this room, but a lot of things will be gotten. I want this session to be an information session, a time for all our panelists to also give us the opportunity to educate us in their field, what is happening currently, and the way forward. Our topic is on Ghana Data Protection Act. We are not there yet, so it's an act. It is. It's a law now. Great. The Ghana Data Protection Law and its implementation. So the first round of questions is for us to give some highlights on the law and where we are as a roadmap in terms of its implementation. So we can all go around it and then talk about it. I would like to start from.
So thank you very much, everyone. And first, for me, I was happy that Ghana finally had a law like that for a number of reasons. Obviously, I have a human rights background, so if there is a Data Protection Act, I should be excited about that. And I'm happy that colleagues on the panel, I'm happy to have you on the panel because it helps me to make the points that I need to make so that you can reflect on them. The importance of the Data Protection Act, first, it establishes a commission that is to oversee data protection activities in Ghana, which is very important. That means that there is a where to go available for us if we think that there are some unethical practices or some breaches in data protection. There is a place to complain. The three significant things about that act. One is that it then provides a governance framework for data protection in Ghana. Aside from providing that governance framework, it also provides the opportunity to register those who control data, those who collect data, those who process data, and to set the framework for how data is processed, how it is used, under what conditions, under what rules and for what purposes. Then the last one I will mention is that it says what the Act called standard principles for data collection. How do you collect somebody's data, for using what tools and for what purposes, and how do you store it after using the data and all that. For me, that is the most significant thing. Where we are with implementation is the slippery aspect that I think as the conversation unfolds, we will be getting into.
Okay. Thank you very much. And the Data Protection Commission, as established, actually in Africa, Ghana was the second country to actually pass that law, pass it into a law in the year 2012. Cape Verde was the first, followed by Ghana. And as at now, a lot of countries in Africa have at least some form of law to protect the privacy of their citizenry. And I think Ghana has been doing very well on the African continent. And if you mention data protection in Africa, we are one of the countries that will come to mind in terms of data protection. The law was actually passed to protect you and I. So we, the citizenry, the individuals, are the focus of the law to ensure our privacy is protected, so that organizations are guided by set down principles in the collection, storage, processing, and usage of our data, so that companies will not take advantage, undue advantage of us. So the fundamental aim of the law is to help you and I to protect our privacy. And as we are talking about, there cannot be human rights, respect to human rights without the respect to our individual privacies. So fundamentally, that is what the law seeks to do. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think they've given some in-depth into the Data Protection Commission's work. I think they've done a very great job with the Act in terms of even the advocacy and how they are taking the awareness of how personal data is supposed to be protected. Even though there are other sides of it in terms of enforcement, monitoring of how the implementation of the Act is done, there are some lapses in those areas, and I hope as the discussion goes on, we'll take a look at them. And I think those sides are very critical that has been overlooked by the Commission. But the best part is that we have the Act, and then there is some form of education on the Act, which gives the awareness to people in terms of those who collect the data and those whose data is being collected. So that is a very good side of it. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think they've said it all. So I will just summarize all that they have said. And in a nutshell, the Data Protection Law or Act defines the rights and also the obligation of data controllers. And so the rights of the individual, you and I, that this data controller will collect our personal data. It has to do with personal data. Something like your name, your date of birth, your address, your phone number. You and I as individual, companies collect this data from us. So the law defines the right you and I have. And then also it defines the obligations of these data controllers, those that will process our data or data processes. And then also there's this commissioners they have mentioned. So 3 things here: Data Protection Commission, you and I as individual, and then the data controller. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next, I would want to, you mentioned a lot about the Data Commission. We really want to know, apart from what has been mentioned, they have been established. Are they working? Are they working? If they are we seeing it? If they are not, what are their challenges? Is there anything we can talk about now that could sort of help them in the work they are doing. I think we'll start from you, Mr. Safo.
All right, thank you. What I would say is that yet the pace has been slow as the awareness might have gone. Yeah, they've been lenient all this while, 12 years, since 2012. So it's about 10 years now. And so 10 years is not small. I mean, years. So we would have expected them to have done a lot of education and so on. And what I've been seeing them doing is that they've been lenient. Recently, I saw them on TV and they were saying that a lot of people have not been registered with them and all those, and they're giving them ultimatum that if you don't register, then they will take you to court and so on. And so their work haven't been seen much as it should have been. So that's what I was saying now. They need a lot of help. So as the conversation unfolds, we will touch on how they can be helped, and then all the suggestions will come in.
Let's continue. What can we do?
The education, like if the people are not aware, how can they implement all this protection or follow all these principles in data protection or processing personal data? And so education is very important. A lot of people out there have this misconception. When you ask people about data protection, what comes to mind is this is the work of the IT staff or IT professionals, not knowing that anybody who collects personal data has an obligation, irrespective of you being IT professional or not IT professional. You're a small business, you collect data about personal individuals. And so you are obliged to, follow the principles. And so the education must go well with them. And then I think they can work with National Commission for Civic Education, NCCE, to help them educate the masses. And also, we can make it part of our curriculum, as you mentioned. Like, fortunately, my first degree and my master's degree, I was fortunate to go through all this data protection and IT laws and so on. But how about those doing business administration? And you realize that they are the one that process personal data. And so I think those in business school should also be, exposed to this data protection law at their training, at the undergraduate level, at the master's level. So I think it should be part of the business law, one of the topics in business law, or one of the topics at the MIS level, at the MBA level, so that before they come out, they are aware of this data protection so that we can implement it. Thank you.
Yeah, with some of their works, when you go to their website, you realize that they have a list or a repository where they have registered organizations. When you go through some of the data, you realize that some companies need renewal, some of their details have in terms of the certification has expired, and they have to focus also a little bit on that. And one aspect that I think they have to start with and to be more serious with is those who sign up to government contracts or who get government contracts through the Public Procurement Act. They will have to ensure that those companies are complying with these data protection requirements. For example, when you look at the public payment system, you realize that most of those that people that are on government payroll, their information ended up with third parties. So you will be there and then you receive text messages from people about loans and all those things that you don't know how your data ended up getting there. And I think that some people within the Data Commission, the Protection Commission itself have received similar messages. A lot has to be done in that terms of have been sent messages from scammers. It's easy for actually those who have not dealt on this cyber giving their data to in terms of accountant and controller side is reliable. And the way the message also is sent, you realize vary in terms of the data resident on the device that I'm using to collect it, the network I'm using to make people have access to the platform, and also how people sign up to my services and have access to such data. I'll try and break it down a little bit. For example, if in case I sign up to a particular service, are they using the right encryption schemes to make sure that my data is protected? If in case they have open services where they can share information about me, are they ensuring that I subscribe to that portion where my information can be shared with third parties? So all these things will have to be enforced. And when you go to their website also as well, whilst registering, they provide certain fields that you are supposed to fill. I think more details is supposed to be done on that so that they can actually look at certain areas in which the people use the data and process the data in, and also ask questions to be sure that they are using the right protection for the data that they are collecting that are resident on their system also. And also there is a portion also that looks at whether the data is stationed within the country or outside the country. They also have to ensure that the country's data that is a resident externally is also well protected. It's not everything that the Act can cover. For example, when you are using WhatsApp, all your contacts or other applications that you download from Play Store, sometimes they collect data on your phone in terms of all contacts and other things. For example, there is this app, one of the social networking apps, Telegram. When you join Telegram, all your friends who have your number and who have also installed Telegram can have the notification that you have joined Telegram. Now, that side of the application is not controlled by us. So do we have a provision where we can protect our citizens' data that is external? So these are some of the things that we have to look at. And also, do we have to review and come out with certain ratings to inform our citizens as to which services that they are supposed to subscribe to, that those service providers fall within or have certain protection that falls within the Act that we have. These things are very, very, very important as to how you protect the data of your citizens. And also, now that they said data is gold, which means that when your data is with somebody, they use it for other information that they use to enrich themselves or to promote certain businesses. Do we have control, and to what degree do we protect our citizens' data to that effect from both third parties and also internally? So I think in terms of the implementation of the Act and enforcing it, the technical expertise that have to be gathered to ensure that standards are created so that from the start that somebody registers the company and also add other services to it, they make sure that they are compliant. And that is why I think the digitalization agenda is very crucial as a national project. So for example, if somebody provide a particular service and they are paying contacts, and you can know some of the services that they provide. Through that, you can relay some of those data sets in order to see which kind of services are they providing. Have they signed up to certain provisions like the Data Protection Act, so that you can easily monitor within the space of the digital space, so that you can track those who are using certain services and then monitor them, and that makes it much more easier. As you do that, also you also try to protect them and not to make some of those data sets available. So the digitization agenda is in a key direction, but I will also advise that when such activities are going on, they open up in terms of the consultation. You know, when you extend the consultation and then you continue also to consult into broader spectrum by involving the larger aspects of academia, society, in order to contribute to what you want to implement or what you've actually passed. It makes it easy for you to know the boundaries, to know how far you are going, to measure it and see whether it is actually impacting or doing what you want to do. And I think the same thing to have to do with the National Cybersecurity Authority. Similar thing will have to be done within that aspect, since they also look at activities within the digital space and ensuring that people's data are not being compromised. So these things really intertwine, and they'll have to expand their consultation. This is very important, because if you don't expand and include everybody, you might be looking at that aspect or think that what you have is really working, but it's not working in certain aspects, and then you might not get the results that you need. And I think I'll give some space to my colleagues to contribute to it.
That's a great one. All right. I do not speak for the commission, but I have insight into most of their operations. So I'm speaking based on my interactions with them and what I know. All right. But looking at it on a broader perspective, one would have expected that since the law came into effect in 16th October 2012, would have jumped and start doing things right away. But critically, when you look at it, it is practically impossible for a law to be passed and then you just jump on to start its implementation as it is right away. For example, the law has been passed, but the question is, do we even have the expertise within the country to man these aspects of the implementation? So one of the ways the commission came in was to start to have an institution for training. The training aspect is very key, because if you don't train the organizations, they are not aware. You don't have the expertise in-house to handle this data. Then it means virtually you are going to prosecute every institution in Ghana. That is what it means. So what they started by doing is to start the training aspects of it, so that organizations are aware of their obligations. Then you can now start holding them accountable. So recently, I think that should be 30th of March, when on TV, actually they sent a list of organizations to the Attorney General for prosecution because they have failed to apply the principles, or they are not processing citizens' data in the right direction. Why? Because they now think they are much aware, the law is matured enough, organizations have been educated enough to be able to handle these data. So if you look at the implementation, like what every other institution will encounter in terms of human resource, logistics, and any other thing, the financial capability and commitment, and even the awareness of the citizens themselves all come into play in this. So, well, to me, if you look at it, I think it has been a very gradual step, and they are climbing gradually. So maybe we would have expected more, but let's look at it as the challenges that any other organization also face. So I think, yes, it has been there. They are doing their best, but they could also still do more. Thank you.
Great points that have been made already. The commission has 4 functions: monitoring compliance, registration of data controllers, making administrative arrangements on how to enforce the law, And there's a fourth one that I'm not getting offered immediately. But if you assess the commission's work in those terms, you will see that they have not come very far. And indeed, I think anybody in the commission will agree. I am happy that my colleague has mentioned some of the challenges that may have impeded the capacity and ability of the commission to be able to achieve much. But let's get it. The point that we have to begin the assessment from is a point that my colleague made from the beginning, that data, this whole thing about data protection is about our privacy. So the question is the commission able to secure our privacy? The answer from my other colleague is not to a large extent, because as it stands now, all of us are vulnerable in many, many ways. We have data with banks. We have data with the Electoral Commission. We have data with the National Identification Authority. We have data with telcos. We have data with different kinds of organizations. How is the commission ensuring that our data is safe? And an example is what my colleague gave, that data that you know is with a particular organization. You were there. I didn't know how somebody got your phone number. One company somewhere got your phone number. And then they send you adverts. You come, you check into Holiday Inn Hotel. Great, they took data on you. Question, how are they keeping that data? Where is the data going? Who is having access to that data? And I said from the beginning that I like it that my colleagues are here, because the fact that there are people around who are preying on data, who are looking for our personal information to take advantage of us, is the thing that we want to protect. Now let's also note that the Data Protection Act itself has exemptions, and that makes it very complicated, because then it's as if some organizations are exempted, as we know popularly, our national security and all that. We'll come to that point maybe at some point. But the point is, as at now, the Data Protection Commission is working, but it has not started working fully. Because if you cannot even regulate to ensure that organizations that are registered with you are able to renew their registration, and you can't take action against them, and you are basically complaining about them not being able to register, you can ensure that there are steps that are taken to prevent them from collecting data further if they won't register. Then there are problems, there are real problems. So let's face it, the commission has been established, is launched into action. It lacks a capacity in a number of ways, is struggling to build that capacity. But in terms of delivery on its mandate, we are far, far, far behind. And all of us are vulnerable. And I think that this is the point where conversations such as this are important, to draw attention to key stakeholders that see there is work to be done, and that must be done now or in the near future. Otherwise, we will have a Data Commission, Protection Commission set up, and just like its replicas all over the place, you know, it will just exist in name, and the function will not be effectively performed. And that's where the worry should be.
Quickly chip in something. Now, the act itself bars the commission to publish certain reports. So there are so many things happening that they can't bring to the fore for us to know, because these issues are issues of privacy. So if they are handling issues of privacy, they can't bring it as a report. So they can't publish a lot of things. But however, there are so many organizations that they have utilized their powers to stop them from processing. But that will not come into the public domain for you to know. And as a requirement, and I can boldly speak to that, that for example, there is no fintech in Ghana now that can register with the Bank of Ghana without having registered with the Data Protection Commission. So these are some of the things that they have done that we may not be aware of. As we speak now, they have worked with the Attorney General's Department to actually have a specialized court to deal with issues of privacy, so that issues will not follow the normal court system to prolong court issues like that. So there are so many things that they are doing that is not to the public domain. They have done so many, and they have stopped a lot of companies from processing. About renewal, if an organization fails to renew, that is not their problem. They have the platform, everything for you. But if you don't do, then they can come after you, which they have been doing. But however, like we are saying, the awareness is between you and I to be able to ensure that our rights are being enforced with every institution. Now, the main duty of the Data Protection Commission is not to keep you and I our data, but their main aim is to regulate those that are collecting our data. So the onus is not on the Data Protection Commission, but on the data controllers, that is the organizations that are collecting our data. And as a way of education also, most of us have had the impression that when you receive these text messages and other things from other institutions, then automatically it is assumed it is coming from the telcos, or it is coming from what? The controller and accountant general. But there are so many places we have, you and I, we have left our information that we are not aware of. When we go on your social media platform, the groups that you join on Facebook and any other place, don't they have your contact? People go harvesting for this. There was an instance, for example, you came, you registered, right? There was a conference like this that somebody working in the insurance industry just took snapshot of the information and started selling what insurance to the people who attended a particular conference. That definitely is not coming from the telco, neither is it coming from what the controller and accountant general. But it is as a result of our personal activities that we get ourselves involved in. Right now, we are taking attendance. Where is what Paradigm and the organizers after this? How are they going to use the data? You and I will not know. So these are some of the areas that we have to be very conscious about. So the data leakage and how information are being received is not necessarily coming as a result of what? From leakages from the telcos or the institutions that are responsible. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. We all say that we are being educated, isn't it? Good. Now, the last thing is, after listening to our darling panelists, what kind of education would you give to us as individuals? My interest now is the individuals. The Data Protection Act has been passed. Their implementation is not too good, but we are just hoping we get there. And we are praying, and not just hoping and praying, but we must do something about it. But what can you tell us as individuals as Ghanaians? What should we do to safeguard our information? Right now, when we came, we were supposed to register. If you don't want your data out there, maybe you might decide not to register, isn't it? What else? What else? Give us ideas. What do we do to safeguard our data, our privacy, especially my interest is on the internet. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So as individuals, we must be mindful of all this data we give out there. And as she mentioned, on the internet, you register for certain applications and so on. They take your details and your phone numbers. And nowadays, the operating system we use try to make it difficult for application to have access to our data. So as you are signing on to any application, when you download any application, the OS will try to protect you. So the operating system will ask, do you want this application to have access to this data? And so you and I have the right to say no, so that they wouldn't take our details. One of the panelists said that most of the application, once you sign on to it, all your friends will know that you are using Duo or you are using that one. And so the operating system developers are also trying to protect us. So all this application, now they try to put it in the sandbox so that it wouldn't have access to our data. So we have our own right. So be mindful that we also have our rights. And Data Protection Act is on the website. So I will plead that we go download and read. They are not in so much technical terms that you don't need to be a lawyer to understand it. So let us read those, acts so that we know our rights and we know where to take our complaints to. If somebody is taking stuff that you are not happy with, one of the acts say that the data they are collecting from you should be adequate. So if somebody is taking data from you, you have the right to say, what are you using it for? It's too much. If you want my number, just take the number, not anything else, and so on. So let us go and read so that we can know our right and when to lodge our complaints. Thank you.
Okay. So in terms of the users or us individuals and data privacy, I think there is a fact that everybody has to know, even though not everybody is going to be okay about it, is that the future in terms of practicality of data privacy is not going to be that guaranteed. And this is a fact. But in terms of humans, knowing certain thing about humans, then we can focus more in terms of the data privacy, in terms of futuristic activities. But in terms of futuristic activities, data privacy is going to be very negligible when it comes to machines. And this is a fact. For example, let me just use you, for example. Now, your devices are becoming smarter every day, and they have certain characteristics. For example, if you type or you send messages using your phone, using WhatsApp, other social media, and other things, your phone tries to understand you in terms of certain words that you use often, your typing speed, how you interact with the system, and all this information are collected on you, not you necessarily giving it to the system. Now, this information can be used to create an identity of you, and that makes the machine knowing you better than even a human being in order for them to serve you more and serve you much more conveniently. So in order for these services to be provided to you, these machines will collect your data, process it, and share it with other systems if necessary. And they will have to do it on their own and willingly, which you will not like anyway, but it's a fact. So the future in terms of privacy within this direction have to be known. Let me give you for an example. In 2018, we were in Italy trying to have a discussion on this privacy and other things in terms of artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. So we have big companies, Tesla, Lamborghini, all those companies working towards driverless systems, IoT, integrating artificial intelligence into systems. So one person from the EU data protection asks about should machines be given opportunity to take over from humans? Should that autonomy be given? And the fact is that if it is necessary, and who decides when it is necessary? Should it be the humans or should it be machines? Definitely it has to be the machines. Okay, definitely it has to be the machines. And I led that discussion towards that direction, and I have to justify it for them to understand so that they will be careful when they are creating their laws, how it affects that. Else, you realize some companies will move out to build a technology somewhere, and you will choose to import that technology into your country or not, which is happening anyway. So companies prefer, because of data privacy and other things, to set up their data warehousing in other countries that have flexible rules in order to render more services to their users. For example, if someone is riding a bicycle across the street and you are driving and accelerating on a straight road, and that kid on the bicycle is going to drive and cross the road at a particular speed. Now, with the data being collected, assuming the kid is having a phone, and then the phone have a Google GPS on, and then data is being collected that an object is moving at that speed towards a direction, and the rate at which you are moving is likely there is going to be an accident, and your car decided to slow you down, not to overspeed. In that case, your car has made the decision without you intervening, and life has been saved. Another case also is that there can be an accident on the road, and you will be driving at a top speed, or there will be a defect on the road. Now, your car will have to decide to decelerate so that it can save your life. So these are some of the instances that devices will have to know you better. For example, the health devices in terms of the future, having devices embedded in your bodies that have to collect data on you yourself in terms of precision medicine to make sure you have much more better healthcare. For example, if you have devices embedded in your body and you are going to eat, based on how the food is prepared and then the information gathered about the food also documented, that device can give you information as to how much of that food you can consume, or so that it will not have negative effect on you. And it can also give you information on which kind of food you can eat in order to have more healthy situation. So these devices also can share your information with other systems that they can use to understand your performance in terms of health. And this information can be shared across so that they can use the best aspect of optimized living to help inform you as to how you can grow. In terms of the health sector also, assuming that you are treating a patient and you've gotten certain information about the patient that is new, and you have no clue about the approaches that you have to use, but the hospital systems are integrated in such a way that somebody has been able to use another approach to get a good result. That person's information and approach will have to be shared with the other system to aid that medical doctor save another life in another geographical location. So the future in terms of privacy when it comes to machines interacting with machines, those ones can not be that much guaranteed, which is a fact. But in terms of humans, knowing those ones, yes, maybe certain restrictions and permissions can be given to it. And these are some of the understanding that we need to have so that we can guide our tech space at the same time our future towards that. For example, we are all here. It's not all of you that decides which data should go out or not. Once your phone is with you, data will continuously be collected of you and then stuff like that. That is all that I want you to know. Thank you.
All right, to start with, I would say the Data Protection Act is actually made for you and I. It protects us more than the organizations. However, it is up to you and I to really understand what our rights are. In all, if you look at from the beginning to the end of the Data Protection Act, you have 10 rights as an individual that you can enjoy. And some of them include your access to information. So once you have provided the information at any point in time, you have every right to take back that data or have them. But it is your personal data. You have the right for corrections to be effected on it. You have the right to know who else has or could have access to that data. So for example, the ones that we have done right now, you have registered your name, email, and phone numbers are there. You have every right to ask the organizers, who else can have access to my data? And they have to tell you. So if they don't use it for that purpose, and it is used for any other, or for example, they now give it to insurance companies to be contacting you, then it is against the purpose for which you give it. Then most importantly too, you have every right to refute automated decision making, where decisions are made on your behalf without your involvement by using computerized algorithms to come up with something that they think you may be interested in. You have every right to stop that and say, no, I want a human being to be part of that decision. So those are some of the rights. And we should also know that no matter what we do, your privacy is your personal responsibility. It is not the company. You are giving it out. But do you know the reason why this company wants your data? We fill forms without understanding them. You provide every information the moment they ask. You don't read terms and conditions telling you the reason why they are taking the data. So they are telling you, probably, if you fill this information, we are going to share it with A, B, and C. And because you have not taken the time to read it, so tomorrow you find it being used at other places and you are complaining. So I think the onus lies on you and I to read and understand the reason why we are providing certain data. And we should be very lenient to ask questions. If you go to the bank, mostly the banks are, the defaulting people. You go to the bank, you want to open an account. They tell you, sign here, sign here, sign here. How many of us have taken the time to read what you are signing up on? So sign here, sign here. It doesn't communicate to you. Ask them the question, why am I signing here? Because opening an account, if it was for only one purpose, you have only signed once. You are signing several signatures because they are for different purposes, but they would not tell you. And that is what we have to be careful about. And the way we provide information. Now, if I want to profile any of us here, all I need is to know your name and go to your social media platform. You have provided every information that I need already. So it is not a result of what companies processing wrongly, but because of the way we have also provided the information. Anywhere you go, you are putting all your three phone numbers, you are giving it to one person. Why? Why did you have the three numbers in the first place? It means you want to use it for what? Different purposes. So if you are giving it out and you give all the three to one individual, you have not achieved any purpose. The person calls the first one, he doesn't get you, second one, third one, he will get you. So you see, at times we forget about some of these basic things. And then the internet never forgets. So whatever information you put them today, tomorrow it will be used against you. So we have a lot of digital footprints that we have already spoiled every place already. So we have to now, if you can't, then we should be educating our younger ones to be very careful about the kind of information we put out there. But the internet will never forget. On your social media platforms, the WhatsApp group in which you are, what kind of information are you sharing there? I can just, if you are in the same group, at least 256, right? In a group. That means I have access to 256 people. So if I'm in 10 of these groups, I'm getting 1,250. And if I gather all this data, I don't know what I can do with that. And I'm an insurance person, and I will start receiving email and WhatsApp messages. So you see, we have already provided the data already. So our privacy should be of paramount to us, and know that you are responsible for it. The organization or the data protection or the law is just guiding those who are using it. But you have to take the necessary step in protecting yourself in the first place. Thank you.
Okay. It's unfortunate we don't have much time to discuss these issues, but I want to begin from this point, that as he mentioned, space where we will have our privacy very soon will not exist. And that's the fact that we are, if you look at the digital space, it's such that, particularly when you get into the domain of artificial intelligence, then privacy is serious. That's one. And I agree that we have personal responsibility for protecting our privacy, which is good. But the reason why we talk about these laws is that there is a recognition of individual vulnerability. And that is why the state has a responsibility to take measures to ensure that where I fail as an individual, at least the state that exists to protect all of us will protect me. It's just like saying I died because of my irresponsible life. Then why am I paying police and other security services to protect me? Okay, so that is one part of it. But when you say, let's talk to us, individuals, see, what we need to be aware of is that in the first place, let's know that our own governments also spy on us. You understand? Apart from other individuals trying to spy on you, your own government is spying on you. They want to know where you have been, what you are doing, who is your friend, who is not your friend, where do you like going, whom do you like doing A with, B with. They like to know. And sometimes too much information is collected. Okay. Assume that as we are in this room, as we walk in our country, all of us, from a security point of view, all of us are taken as suspects. In every case, all of us are suspects. So all of us are under investigation at every point in time, you know. So there is data being collected on you wherever you go. As we sit in this room, we will not just be in this room. Somebody needs to be interested in what we are doing in this room. And if that thing is not a threat to national security, if that's a threat to national security, they can take action. I hope that is important. We agree to this as citizens, and we need to be aware that things like this happen. But beyond our state spying on us, there are other things that we need to be careful about. One, no matter how much you protect your data, if you can see, our colleague is using that phone, and I am using this one. There's a difference between the two phones and the security that both phones offer. So I like he made the point that the more you go for these Android phones, take pictures, put it on it. Some people share nude pictures and all that. You are not sharing between you and the person. Know that this is being hosted by a system that is transmitting it through a network so that your friend can hear it. Because it's like you are here and talking, and you need these speakers to carry the information. There is a connection between this microphone and the speaker for you to hear. And within that space, you don't control what happens there. All I can control is to talk here. The rest is not in my hand. So if you take your phone, you go on your WhatsApp, you go on your Twitter account, whatever you are doing, know that somebody else may be seeing it. I like the point my colleague made that, you see, you can decline certain things. But the digital space is also such that there are some, when you decline, you can't proceed. Okay, so what do? You see, they say agree. If you disagree, then you can't have access to the service. So you have to agree. Of course, there are things that you have to, and we are talking at the level of the everyday user of the digital space. The advanced user of the digital space may have ways of getting around some of these things. But for the everyday user, you can't disagree. So you agree, and then you proceed, and the information is stored somewhere. If you use your phone, some of you have Samsung phones, it's telling you how many steps you took in the day, your health needs, those kind of things. You haven't told Samsung to do that. You can disable, but you don't have the capacity to even understand where to go on the phone to disable some of these things. See, so there are huge issues. So if it's about personal security, the first thing is to be aware. You mentioned the point of your digital identity. Know that everybody who goes into the digital space, with time, you will have an ID, and that ID will be ascribed to you. And everything you do in the space, you will be leaving footprints that will be followed, can be tracked, and people can always know what you are doing. So it's important that we all develop that awareness. Then you can decide what you do when you get into that space. The CCTV cameras that Ghana Police Service has installed and the security services have installed all over Ghana. When you are passing, the camera will not decide that give permission before I take records of you. You can't give that a permission. The camera will take the picture of you, decide on you, send it into a system. The question is, the person managing the system, has that person been trained to understand that, see, this data is for security purposes. Keep it there. So that tomorrow, if you see that man, it's a man, is now chasing your girlfriend, you don't say, okay, I will disgrace you. So you intentionally find a way of leaking that video of him that you are keeping as a security person. See, these are some of the issues that bring the point to an ethical and human rights area. So yes, there is the state responsibility, there is the personal responsibility, but the intersection is that you need to be personally aware of risks that you face or risks that exist in the digital arena, so that you can consciously make efforts to control how much the digital arena knows about you. Know that as we exist in normal society and we have gossips, people just nosing into your issues and trying to understand what your plans are, where you are going, what you are doing, the same thing in the digital space. There is the capability to nose into your affairs. So you need to know how you protect yourself physically. You must go into the digital space and also protect yourself. We share too much information about ourselves, and that's dangerous. And we shouldn't blame people when such information then goes out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause. Really informative and insightful. Now, if we could get one or two questions for our panelists. Ooh. 1, 2, 3, done. Oh, 3. Okay, we start. Doc. Yes. Please, we would we'll take all 3 questions so that when they answer, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted, before I ask the question, I just want to add that apart from the information that we give out, the apps that we also install, not all of them are good apps. Some of them gather data and communicate it without our knowledge. So let's be careful. It's not every app that is good. Let's be careful about that. I would also want to say that the commission, the National the Data Protection Commission, I think that beyond monitoring bodies, organizations, and making sure that they comply with the law, they should also educate. And the reason why education is important is that, like it is the case that we've seen here, very soon machines will take over the system, not only very soon, but it has already started. So some of the data, apart from we giving it out, get out, maybe by virtue of the kind of things that we do, the kind of phones that we use and the apps that we install and so on. So we need that education to let us know that this is the kind of society we now live in. People need to know, a lot don't know, especially looking at the kind of society that we are now. A good number of Ghanaians, for example, maybe have the requisite educational background. Majority, or let's say a large number, still do not have that. So that education will be very useful so that we know that the society that we live in right now is getting automated and a lot of things go on without our knowledge. But my question is, the general impression actually from the beginning of the discussion was that, okay, is that I was getting is that the commission doesn't seem to have done a lot yet in protecting us. But as we progressed, the panelists, I think that is Mr. Gadasu, he actually made us understand that, well, there were some few challenges from the beginning and a lot of work is being done anyway, just that it doesn't come out because of privacy situation. But we also know that this law is for us. So if the law is for me, I deserve to know certain things. You get the point. So if the law is for me and you are keeping information from me because of privacy, then where do I stand? Because it's for me, I need to know. I don't know whether you get my question. Okay. So it's for me, let me know it. That is my point. Thank you.
All right. My name is Fred. I'm a student of the University of Ghana, Legon. Last 2 weeks, my lecturer gave some assignments. And then I was researching on the internet. And then someone, a hacker, just appeared. And while I was reading through, I just turned off my computer. And then I wanted to know who had my system. I later found out that it was a hacker who did that. So my question is that I don't know about the policy nor the law. But what is my question? We have a policy so for instance, there are punishments made. Are there punishments or anything made for hackers once they are identified? So that is my question.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's a very useful conversation we are having today, and I have a few questions. I'll try and summarize them quickly. So first of all, as we move towards an AI-centric world, how do we, balance the two competing needs, the need for personal security and the need to be able to have easy, access to our technological devices? Because, for example, those who use Apple devices, sometimes Siri will say, we are taking your voice or observing you to be able to give you better services. How do we balance that competing need? And again, in terms of our government and how our government processes our data. So for example, we have registered with the National Identity Authority, and now they use our data for other purposes. Does the law provide us with the opportunity to say, well, I am only registering for purpose A, but you cannot then take that data I've given you to do other registrations? And then finally, in terms of the SIM card registration we are doing now. Now, so we have registered with the NIA. I would have expected that the NIA would use that data and then share it with the telcos maybe in conjunction with certain rules we have established at the time of registering with the NIA. But if we are registering with the telcos, which is not a governmental agency, and yet we are giving certain timelines that if you don't register by this time, we are going to disconnect you. Is that ethical? And is that right for a third party to be given such authority? Thank you.
Thank you.
I think on the issue of the first one, the question was, I think on the, yes, the right to publish it. The reason why some of these things doesn't come out. Let me give you a classical example so that you can understand. For example, if information about all of us here in this room appears to leak somewhere, will it be appropriate for us to go and tell all Ghanaians that the conference we came, there was a leakage of data, and these are the list of the people who were affected? Why not we limit it to only the people who were affected? So if you are not part of the people who were part of the conference, why should we inform you? Because this has to do with our personal data. So it can only, or it is appropriate to only communicate it to what? Those who were affected. So until you are part of the people affected, there's no need
for you to know. So that's how come the Data Protection Commission will not make certain things public for everybody. Then what is the essence of protecting the privacy of the individual? So it is not everything that they would have to come and tell us or you to know if you are not part of the people who are affected. So that's how come some of these things will remain, let's say, into quote, secrets, in order to protect the privacy of the individuals affected. So they wouldn't make some of these things, public for you to know. Else the purpose of the privacy will be defeated if it is announced to the whole world. Yeah, so that's my initial answer to that particular one. Thank you.
Maybe to add to the publication, we are not just the only country that are implementing this Data Protection Law Act. When you go to the UK, they are part of the Information Data Protection Commission is Information Commissioner's Office, or Office of the Information Commissioner. On their website, some of these cases, they publish it there. So why can't Ghana publish our own? When you go to the UK, they publish some of these cases. They might not mention the individual name, but the judgment that was passed, they will publish that, hey, they'll be able to prosecute this company by doing this or that organization. And I think we can do that over here. Just publishing that company that failed to protect our data and so on. Just mention the company and shame the company, not the individuals. We can just hide the name of the individuals. The company does this, that, and so on. And to come to his question, if there's punishment for hackers and so on, yes, we have other laws governing this. There's this cybersecurity law. In the UK, they have what they call Computer Misuse Act. So Ghana may have similar acts. And apart from the data protection, there's this cybersecurity law that has been passed. And they can use that one to prosecute anyone who hacks into your system. All right. And also, the balancing of all this technology and so on, as you mentioned, any service you want to use or application you want to use, terms and conditions are there. And with the terms and conditions, if you think it's not going to help you, it's up to you to refrain from using it. And as you mentioned, the artificial intelligence and so on. Sometimes we enjoy the application your friends recommend to you, and if it's going to help you do your things, why not? So as you mentioned, we can't guarantee this protection. So balancing this artificial intelligence and so on, we are going to enjoy. So there must be some sacrifices, but it's up to us to know our limit, where we can go and so forth. And the national authority, this telcos registering us, most cases is for our own protection and for our security. Some people were using our numbers, call you, send money to me, do that. But if all numbers have been registered, whoever defrauded you could be traced. So most cases, the intention is to protect us. Yeah, not for that purpose. So that's what the government is working with them. It's not that the telcos are the one demanding for us to register. There is the government. National Authority, Identification Authority is the one, working in conjunction with these telcos so that all these hackers, somebody will say, I'll send money to your mobile money. Can you send it back to me? Do this. And then they will throw away that SIM card and so on. I think it's all about protecting us from all these fraudsters and so on. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of the publications, I think I also agree with you and the point made that even if the detail is not made about the people, at least the incident itself and the company involved, making that known, it's key step in terms of making sure such things are not repeated by other companies, and also those who are in the business also take steps in protecting that. We have similar publication also on Yahoo, Google, LinkedIn about leaked information of its users. Now, with regards to the artificial intelligence and also the future, The only thing that you will have to do is to trust these systems, and the security of the systems will be left to the machines to decide. And that is why there are very good key researches in the sector of homomorphism and also in PQC, which is post-quantum cryptographic protocols that have to secure information to a certain degree so that even these current quantum computers that are being developed would not be able to break those information if in case they have access to it. And I made mention of homomorphism in a sense that information can be processed in its encrypted format without it being decrypted, which means that machines can process those information in those states, knowing what they are processing and the results that they need, but human beings find it very difficult trying to understand what they are processing, and that is what the future brings to us. But in terms of you giving notice to some sort of data that has to be collected, in terms of you, the human being, giving that permission, it's not possible in all states. And I think this is what I want you to know so that you can get used to it, because it's better to get used to some of the violation that you may think is a violation of your rights than trying to fight it once you don't have the tools, the technicalities, the capabilities to do so. For example, if you take, assuming you've taken a picture and your device that you use to take the picture, either your phone or your camera, has the capability to tag that picture with a lot of information. For instance, the GPS location of the place, certain coordinates and certain information. Now, such a picture, you haven't permitted that your GPS and other information should be tagged into it, but it also helps in terms of forensic investigation and also checking your presence at a particular geographical location, assuming that there is a crime somewhere. And then they said you were at a different scene when it happened. These devices can help prove that you were actually at the scene or you were not at the scene. So they have their advantages and disadvantages. So we have privacy, security, and safety. If you want to enhance one gets affected if you stretch. It's like a triangle. So you will have to know that when one is taken to an extent, the other ones will also be affected in those circumstances. So it's not everything that has to be protected. And in terms of also you working on your device and then you realize that there is somebody trying to hack into your system. Almost every day, systems are doing what they are not supposed to be doing because of the artificial intelligence capability. People also want to see whether they can break into systems and exploit them. Others also want to get information just to improve or just to know what is happening. So when such things happen, you can report those cases to maybe the police or the National Cybersecurity Authority, if in case they have the capability to investigate it. These agencies will investigate it to bring the people to book. And that also takes a lot of effort in order to even substantiate the evidence that the person you think is actually hacking your device is truly the person that is hacking your device. So we have all these things within the space. And as I said, the artificial intelligence things, there will always be a degree of compromise in terms of the privacy of people, and that also aids improve the usability of the system.
Thank you.
Maybe one small point. Let's remind ourselves, data is good and it's important to collect data because without data, we can't plan as a nation, we can't plan as society, we can't plan as institutions. So data is good and it has to be collected. But if you look at it from a security angle, there's always what we call a dilemma. We need to know who is doing what in order to keep all of us safe. But at the same time, in that process, there are risks. So if we are investigating him for a crime and we see that he has been calling you, we need to know why he has been calling you. Maybe you are an accomplice. So in the process, we may come to realize that, oh no, you are not an accomplice. And your data can be kept safe. If we find out that you are an accomplice, we pick you in addition to him, the society is safer. So we need to understand these dynamics. So apart from looking at it as a case of just, oh, then why should we give our data and all that, it's important for planning purposes. So we need to give it out. How much we give out, the detail we go is what is personal judgment we have to do. But we need to know that data will continue to be collected on us, whether we agree or we don't agree. An important point has been made. Sometimes we are just too happy updating everything on our phones. For example, just see everything, then you press. Everything you press. Sometimes people intentionally send these things to you, and you go and press, and you now help them to have photocopy of your phone, duplicate copy of your phone. Every information you receive, they also receive some. No, it's nobody's fault. It's you who is just too adventurous, too interested in everything, and you are pressing everything, agreeing to everything. These things are very important that we know. But what is important to me is to know that in terms of security, there is always the balance between keeping us safe, for which reason we need information, and how sometimes there is an encroachment on our personal privacy issues. And that is where we need to understand the system. Sometimes if you have nothing to hide, you don't need to be worried about some of the data that is collected. But at the same time, we agree that the data collection goes in certain ways that cannot be communicated on this stage, but which then goes to infringe on personal rights and freedoms. And those, we must speak back to authority and say, see, we think that there is unnecessary encroachment into our privacy, which needs to be checked. But when it comes to those things, the problem is, how do you even know that there is an encroachment on your privacy? This is where it's very serious. Now, even as he said, if you go to lodge a complaint that it seems somebody is hacking your computer or something, sometimes in our part of the world, there is a measure of significance. And somebody is like, oh, okay, somebody hacking into your computer. What information is the person taking that we need to deploy the whole cybersecurity intelligence to go and be tracking and trying to find out who this person is, what network it belongs to, and to arrest this person. It takes a lot. But that is, for me, that is where the conversation also is important. That sometimes maybe tracking this small thing may lead to a bigger network. So again, it's just like in the physical space where I go to make an innocent complaint at the police station, and sometimes, oh, this one, don't worry, there's no problem, and then it ends there. In the digital space too, there may be this kind of frustrations. But the important thing to note is that the digital space exists to keep us safe also, because then it also provides an opportunity to be able to track certain criminal activity that we can all contribute to addressing. So let's not fear these things too much. There is a good side to it, which in fact outweighs the bad sides that we are afraid of. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. We are grateful to our panelists for the insightful and educative session. And we hope our audience are also satisfied and are going home with something today. Thank you all very much. Okay, group picture.
So we'll now take a coffee break while they take their photos. If you can move here to grab some tea for 20 minutes. Thank you.